Ladies and gentlemen, we must direct our analytical focus toward the hardwood of the unrivaled league. For what is transpiring within this nascent 3-on-3 competition is offering us a profound and at times disturbing window into the psychological and physical realities of professional women's basketball. We are witnessing a collision of trajectories, the ascension of a young, undeniable superstar, and the reactionary physical frustration of an established veteran. The recent contest featuring Aliyah Boston and Brittney Griner has provided us with a spectacle that demands a rigorous dissection, not merely for the athletic feats displayed, but for a specific, egregious sequence of events that threatens to undermine the integrity of the game itself. We stand at a juncture where we must separate the art of basketball from the theatrics of unsportsmanlike conduct. In a moment that has since reverberated across the basketball landscape, we witnessed Aliyah Boston, a player who is currently undergoing a magnificent metamorphosis before our very eyes, execute a defensive maneuver of absolute purity. She met Brittney Griner at the rim, a block party, if you will, denying the veteran with a verticality and timing that speaks to her growing dominance. It was a clean, decisive rejection. However, what followed this display of defensive excellence was a reaction from Griner that was as perplexing as it was disappointing. The footage is undeniable. Following the block, we observe Griner engaging in a physical retort that transcends the accepted boundaries of competitive physicality. There is the initial contact to the arm, a foul that, while hard, could be construed as a basketball play. But it is the secondary motion, the turning of the hand, the deliberate and forcible grasp of Aliyah Boston's face that demands our condemnation. This was not a natural follow-through. This was not an accidental collision of limbs in the heat of battle. This was, by all optical assessments, a face mask maneuver reminiscent of gridiron football, or perhaps a combat sports simulation like Mortal Kombat. It appeared as though Griner was attempting to physically manipulate Boston's head, a gesture that looked perilously like she was trying to snatch something from her opponent's neck. It is imperative that we pause and consider the optics of such an action. When a player of Lisa Leslie's stature, a veritable matriarch of the sport, a legend whose understanding of the game is unimpeachable, feels compelled to call out the behavior in real time, we must listen. Leslie noted the superfluous nature of the contact. She articulated precisely what the footage revealed. The hit to the arm was one thing, but the subsequent hand turn and face grab was an extra act. A breach of the unwritten contract of respect between competitors. No, bro, no was the sentiment, and it is a sentiment that should be echoed by every observer who values the sanctity of the sport. Why, we must ask, does this occur? What precipitates such a visceral, non-basketball reaction? The answer oftentimes lies in the frustration born of athletic inferiority in the specific moment. We have seen this narrative play out within the WNBA ecosystem far too frequently. A player is being outplayed, outmaneuvered, and balled on, and unable to cope with the defensive or offensive onslaught, they resort to dirty tactics. It is the last refuge of a competitor who has lost the strategic battle. Aliyah Boston was not merely playing against Griner, she was dismantling the opposition. She was doing her dirty on the scoreboard, and the physical retaliation we witnessed was the manifestation of an inability to keep pace with Boston's dominance. Let us scrutinize the specific mechanics of this transgression. Griner's hand descends, striking the arm, and then proceeds to envelope Boston's face. It was an intrusion so severe that one might hyperbolically suggest she was attempting to force Boston to inhale the scent of her palm, a palm that has been in contact with the floor, the ball, and the sweat of competition. It is, to put it mildly, nasty work. It is a sequence that has no place in a professional setting. The visual of Griner with her hand clamped over Boston's mouth and nose is grotesque, and yet, almost as frustrating as the act itself was the immediate performative innocence that followed. We are all too familiar with this sequence. The flagrant act followed by the who me gesture, the feigned ignorance of the perpetrator who acts as if they did not just commit a blatant violation. The BG in this instance might as well stand for basically grabbing, for that is precisely what transpired. But while we must condemn the unsportsmanlike conduct of Brittney Griner, we would be remiss if we did not pivot our attention to the true story of this contest, the absolute ascension of Aaliyah Boston. If we strip away the controversy of the foul, what remains is a portrait of a player who is reaching a new stratosphere of performance. Boston finished this contest with a staggering 21 points and 11 rebounds. She was, for all intents and purposes, unstoppable. The unrivaled league, often viewed as an exhibition or a stopgap, is serving as a crucible for Boston, and she is emerging as a refined, lethal weapon. Her performance was not merely about volume, it was about the evolution of her skill set. We are seeing an Aliyah Boston who is playing with a confident aggression that is palpable. She is taking charge, she is demanding the ball, and most intriguingly, she is expanding her range. While she shot 1 for 6 from beyond the arc in this particular matchup, the very fact that she is comfortable pulling the trigger from the top of the key is a revelation. In previous contests, we have seen those shots fall. She is developing into a true three-level scorer. If Boston can stabilize that three-point consistency, if she can force defenses to respect her perimeter game, she becomes virtually unguardable. Who, we must ask, has the capacity to stop Aliyah Boston in the paint when she can also stretch the floor? The answer is likely no one. This version of Aliyah Boston is a terrifying prospect for the rest of the WNBA. She looks significantly different than she did during the previous WNBA campaign. There is a fluidity to her movement, a sharpness to her decision-making, and a physical imposition that suggests she has taken a quantum leap forward during this offseason. She is dominating the paint with a ferocity that forces opponents, even veterans like Griner, into desperate and ultimately dirty measures. It is crucial to contextualize this dirty play within the broader culture of the league. We have seen a disturbing trend where excellence is met with physical animosity. When a player cannot be stopped within the rules are often discarded by the defense. This is a diabolical element of the game that needs to be excised. It detracts from the product. It endangers the athletes. And frankly, it is beneath the dignity of professional basketball. The league, whether it be the WNBA or its offshoot, Unrivaled, cannot allow its stars to be subjected to face mashers simply because they are performing at an elite level. The contrast in this game was stark. On one side, you had Boston, focused, efficient, and lethal, securing 11 boards and dropping 21 points on 8 of 16 shooting. On the other side, you had Griner, who posted a respectable 12 points on 4 of 6 shooting, but whose performance will ultimately be overshadowed by a moment of lack of discipline. The narrative should have been solely about Boston turning the game into her personal Boston three-party, celebrating her blocks and her buckets. Instead, we are forced to discuss the hygiene and safety of a player having her face grabbed in a manner that belongs in a combat arena, not a basketball court. Even the reactions from the sidelines and the commentary booth reinforce the severity of this incident. When you have Lisa Leslie, a figure who has seen every iteration of physical play in women's basketball history, openly questioning the necessity of the contact, it validates the viewer's visceral reaction. It confirms that what we saw was not a basketball play. It was a personal grievance manifested physically. It was a crash out, a moment where emotional regulation failed in the face of competitive adversity. However, let us not allow the negativity of one player's actions to completely obscure the brilliance of another. Aliyah Boston is currently providing us with absolute cinema. She is playing with a joy and a dominance that is infectious. Her block on Griner was symbolic, a rejection of the old hierarchy, a statement that the paint now belongs to her. and the subsequent foul on her was equally symbolic. The desperate flailing of a guard that can no longer contain the new force in the middle. The unrivaled league may be in its infancy, and some may hesitate to take it seriously, but the intensity we are witnessing suggests that the players are treating it with the utmost gravity. And in that crucible, Boston is forging a new identity. She is no longer just a post player. She is a hub of offense, a defensive anchor, and a perimeter threat. She is, to use the parlance of the streets, a dog, and this development is the most significant takeaway from the event. As we look toward the potential upcoming WNBA season, assuming the labor negotiations resolve themselves, we must anticipate a version of Aliyah Boston that is ready to challenge for the highest individual honors. If she brings this level of aggression, this bag she is displaying in Unrivaled, to the full-court game, the landscape of the league shifts. She is showing us that she has the tools to be the focal point of a franchise, not just as a complementary piece, but as the engine. But for that beauty to flourish, the dirty work must be legislated out of the game. We cannot have players feeling comfortable grabbing faces, turning hits into tackles, and acting as if the court is a free-for-all. It is nonsense. It is a bad look. And it is a disservice to the skill level that is rising across the board. The league is elevating. The conduct of its veterans must elevate with it. We saw Griner attempt to act as if nothing happened, but the camera does not lie. The slow-motion replays strip away the veneer of innocence. We saw the hand. We saw the grab. We saw the torque applied to the neck. It was dangerous. And the fact that Boston kept her composure, kept playing, and continued to dominate is a testament to her maturity. She didn't retaliate with a foul. She retaliated with points. She retaliated with rebounds. She retaliated by winning the matchup. In conclusion, what we witnessed in this unrivaled matchup was a microcosm of the current state of the game. We have the undeniable brilliance of the new generation, represented by Aliyah Boston, clashing with the physical, sometimes over-the-line tactics of the established order. Boston's 21-point, 11-rebound masterpiece was marred only by an act of unsportsmanlike conduct that has no place in the sport. As spectators, we must demand better from the likes of Brittney Griner, just as we celebrate the ascent of Aliyah Boston. The face-grabbing, the extra contact, the feigned innocence, it all needs to disappear. Let the game be decided by skill, by execution, and by who can put the ball in the basket. Because right now, if we are judging strictly on those metrics, Aliyah Boston is standing tall, and no amount of dirty play can obscure that reality. We are watching a superstar come into her own, and it is a privilege to witness, even amidst the chaos. Tell me what you truly think. Is this level of physicality simply part of the game, or does it represent a deterioration of sportsmanship that needs immediate correction? Are we witnessing the passing of the torch in the post, or just a fleeting moment in a 3-on-3 league? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, because the drama of women's basketball is proving to be a ceaseless, compelling narrative that demands our full attention. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, because this story isn't just ongoing, it's intensifying with each passing day, and the ultimate outcome remains deeply, unsettlingly uncertain.